So you want to write a book? Maybe you don't know where to start or how to put one together, or maybe you're writing your next one and you're like, this takes so damn long. I got the tool for you. I have been using MagicBookifier. So I ended up connecting with the creator of MagicBookifier. His name is Victor. And we talked about the tool and what it does. This thing is freaking awesome. I have been using it for I want to say like maybe 8 months or so. And I've been telling my clients about it as well because it has a writing coach that'll help you almost like an interviewer asking you questions for the writing coach. And then there is an ebook creator, there's a chapter creator. I mean, this thing is freaking awesome. And I cannot wait for you to get your hands on this tool because guess what? Victor's so freaking awesome that he gave us a URL for you to go and experience this tool for a lifetime for one payment instead of like all of these payments that you guys got to make for subscriptions. Nope. This is a lifetime deal and it's only for Straight Talk listeners. Got it? It is Straight Talk dot Bookifier, BOOKIFIER.ai. I will put that in the show notes. Straight Talk dot Bookifier.ai is going to give you an exclusive lifetime deal. I'm telling you, if you are someone who wants to write a book, thinking about writing a book, don't know where to start to write a book, all that kind of great stuff, this is a tool that can really, really help you. And I love everything about what he is doing. So I'm going to be quiet now so you can actually hear the amazing ideas and features that come with this amazing tool. All right, I'm quiet now. Let's go. What up, party people? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. And today I have the pleasure to introduce you to a truly inspiring guest. His name is Victor Varnado. I hope I said that right.
Perfect.
Victor, oh, yay! Victor is a trailblazing media producer, a writer, a creator, and he has really left his mark on television, film, comedy, and beyond. As a mastermind behind MagicBookifier, this is such a cool tool. It's something that I have been using for ebooks and all kinds of things. So I can't wait to dive into that. Now, Victor has harnessed the power of AI to revolutionize the way writers and entrepreneurs and creators bring their ideas to life. And you guys know it's all about this AI thing, right? But at least let's get the right tools under our belts, right? So from producing and doing networks like VH1 and Comedy Central and the History Channel, I mean, like that's a two different places, right? The History Channel,
Yeah.
the Comedy Central, and I love that about him. I love everything that he is bringing to the table and how he is inspiring all of us to really dive into our creativity, but with the help of AI. Now, he's not just a creator; he's a change maker, right? So using this platform and advancing accessibility technology, all of that, and I really enjoy what he's brought to the table. When I found this, I've been using it ever since. This tool, this mission, who you are, all good things, Victor. Welcome to Straight Talk. How are you?
I'm glad. I'm happy to be here. I have my cat is just decided to make an appearance.
Oh,
And then if you saw him, he was like on my desk in the back and then he jumped to the top of the wardrobe and now he's up there meowing. So he's
yeah,
probably going to be around.
it's all
Uh,
good. It's all good, right? I got dogs around me now. I'm hoping the mailman doesn't decide to come right now. Let's just put it that way. So I was reading a little bit about you, Victor. So before I get all diving into that, I do want to know more about you, though. So tell us a little bit about you because you have a beautiful, colorful, exciting, like background here. So tell us about you.
well, I'm an artist and I used to be like a gun for hire. I've come a long way. Like I started out when I came to New York, I was doing mostly just acting and stand-up comedy. And then I moved into filmmaking and I worked with like Warner Brothers and Comedy Central, Discovery Channel, like a lot of stuff. I was a producer for many TV shows, a lot of reality TV shows, documentary style TV shows as well. And then about 8 years ago, I I realized that I was doing a lot of work for like these $1 million brands all the time, being creative for everybody else. And I was like, I thought that I could maybe build my own company around my creativity.
Mm.
And that's what I started doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, how was that experience though, right? Because you're going from like working in all of these companies to now stepping out. But if you're doing like stand-up comedy and all that, that's also stepping out, right? Like that's a that's bold. Did you do a lot of stages? Did you do all that kind of stuff? How
Oh
was
yeah,
that?
I've been on Jimmy Kimmel Live,
Awesome.
Conan O'Brien. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of stand-up comedy. It's funny, people often think of stand-up comedy as like stepping out and being bold, but I'm kind of an introvert actually. So the 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 thing is that when you're doing stand-up comedy, you're very much in control of the situation. Like you dictate like how things flow, and that
Mm,
is very that's how an introvert can get on stage. I, I
okay,
I
right.
would say a lot of comedians are introverts.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that, because I'm such an extrovert. I'm always like on a camera, on a something. So that's interesting. And I really like that you decided to step out and do something for yourself. So is that where Magic Bookifier came? Like, that's how that was birthed, or did you have other projects before you came out with that?
I did have other projects before I came out with that. The first thing I did, the biggest thing I did when I really started striking out on my own was I did a game show. I did a game show for Facebook Live and Penguin Random House, where I
Mm,
direct, executive produce and directed this game show called the Great Fantasy Debate, and that was a blast. However, right when right when that game show debuted, the pandemic hit. So
oh, great.
then my company did not get a chance to kind of like ride the wave of that success because everything shut
Hmm.
down. And then during the pandemic, I eventually started developing Magic Bookifier because I had a podcast. I have a podcast called the Arts Academy Podcast where I teach everybody on the podcast, like artists, how to navigate business. And then
Mm,
one of our most popular episodes, I was like, I should turn this popular episode into an ebook. And when I tried to turn it into an ebook, I realized that some of the steps that I was going through, like reading through the information,
hmm.
categorizing it, deciding what information goes where, that's a type of thing that I could probably teach AI to do.
Hmm.
And then that was like the beginning of what Magic Bookifier was. It was actually a funny thing is I was actually just developing this whole system on my own for myself, and it was actually my co-creator of Magic Bookifier, Omar, who was like who saw me developing this system for writing with AI, and he's like, you should make this into an app. And then so he and I worked together to like bring Magic Bookifier to life and turn it into an app.
That's so cool, right? Because you saw a need and then you started like creating that. And I know that Magic Bookifier is, bridging that gap, right? And making like an accessibility for the writers. So I was wondering if you can share a little bit of how the tool works if you're open to that, and how it's going to be helping us like make writing and storytelling well more inclusive for everyone, right? Because it's interesting that you are an artist that's showing people how to navigate business. Usually those things don't live together, right? You're either the artist or the business person. So
I
it's
I
great.
absolutely agree, and I think that by artists learning more about navigating business, that's how more artists can make a living. Because I think there's like
Yeah.
too many artists. I think there are too many artists who do not have uh, the business around them that they need, and are
Hmm.
too many artists that are not creating like the revenue that they need. There goes my cat. He just jumped down. He's doing his thing. Okay, so there's too many artists who don't have the revenue that they need, and I think that if more artists like had more training in like the business side of the arts, like more
Yeah.
artists could be self-sufficient. I think most artists could be self-sufficient because right now you have a global audience potentially. And so
Hmm.
if you can set up a business around yourself, you can make a living as an artist. I'm
Oh yeah.
absolutely sure of it.
Oh yeah, I agree with that, right? I think that's why, what's that term, the starving artist or whatever. And I think it's because they don't have that navigation piece or the business navigation piece because they're so talented, right? They're
Mhm.
so talented. And so they can have that piece. You're absolutely right. And we do have a global audience. You know how many artists I follow on like Instagram and everything else because I love their art and what they bring out to the table. So you're right. They can definitely make a living. I know for me, I like, like I feel like I have all of this knowledge and skills and all this stuff within me and stuff that I'd like to create sometimes when it comes to like writing the book or writing the ebook, whatever. And I get stuck a lot, Victor, right? So when I found a Magic Bookifier, I was like, well, let me play around with this tool a little bit, you know? So I started to create ebooks, which I've actually given to a lot of my clients, right? And I'm starting to like play with the long form because you have like a long form and then you have one with AI that helps you. So can you explain to us like how the tool is working, right? How is it working for others? And like how give us ideas of how people can utilize it.
Well, the I think the most potent thing about Magic Bookifier is with Magic Bookifier, if you can read, then you can write a book.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing because most most people would probably like to have written a book. Like I think a lot of people like have ideas for stories or their own story and they would
Yeah.
have loved to have written a book. And then the thing that holds people back from writing books more than anything
Mm-hmm.
is how do you get started? How do you get to the first draft? How do you get it going? And with Magic Bookifier, one of the systems that it has, all you have to do is decide what you want to write about, and then
Mm-hmm.
it will guide you actually through the process of writing a book from beginning to end by interviewing you like a ghostwriter would and asking you questions. And then you answer
Mm-hmm.
those questions. And then by the time you're done answering all the questions, you can have a first draft of your book. And that is something that hasn't really existed before because
Right.
usually getting to the first draft is an excruciating process. Like if I were to say to you, like if you were to say to me right now, with Magic Bookifier, you would say to me, Victor, I want you to write a bio of like your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I and I want it done by tomorrow. Before Magic Bookifier, it would have been completely stressful for me. But
Yeah.
with something like Magic Bookifier, I mean, yes, it would take hours to write it by tomorrow, but I could write a draft by tomorrow because I could just tell it what my goal is, and then it would organize the ideas for me and
Mm-hmm.
then lead me through a question and answer interview process so that I could write the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like about it is democratizing because even tools right now that other companies make for writers to help them write books, it still requires you to have a large amount of knowledge as just like a writer in general. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that I'm not trying to replace the skill of writing, but I am trying to say that to those people who just don't know how to get started, or those people who would love to get started but not have to go through the excruciating process of sometimes just like organizing the book from beginning to end so they can get to a first draft, then that's who Magic Bookifier is for. So you can just get started and get to that first draft. Because once you have something written out, that's usually where it's easier to write. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to look at something that is finished and then say, oh, I would like this change or that change. But sometimes it's really hard to get to that draft that you can then edit from.
Yeah, yeah. And I like I said, I've been using the tool and I was thinking about like a lot of the coaches, entrepreneurs, creators, things like that. And what kind of like strategies or like ideas have you had for people to use Magic Bookifier to start growing their business? Maybe start establishing themselves as a thought leader. Like what are some of the ideas that you've had for it?
Well, the it depends. It obviously depends on what your brand is, but
Mhm.
I can tell you like I can tell you uh, the simplest way to think about like what you should write about if you want to establish yourself as a thought leader and also grow your brand.
Mhm.
It's the question is what should your book be about? And
Right.
the simple answer is your book should be aimed at those people whom after they read your book could become your customer.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Mhm.
like, let's say that I'm a creative person, and then what people mostly hire me for is like uh is creative projects. Like if they want something executed from beginning to end, like when Penguin Random House came to me, and they were like, we want to you to make a game show. uh then that's my client. My client are like big corporations or companies that need creativity. And then
Okay.
so what I would write a book about, it would be about a book that I could write about would be like uh applying creativity to brands. Okay.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
like how I can apply it, how to apply creativity to a large brand, because then someone who reads that book would then be like, oh, this is the guy who can do it. And yeah, I would obviously give them an idea about how to do it themselves, but you can give away the entire farm about how to be creative, and still other people won't necessarily be able to duplicate it. In
That's
fact,
right.
they would have to come to you for it. And
Yeah.
it depends on what your brand is. If you are, say, there's a guy who's really good at it. There's this guy Alex Harmozy. Have you heard of
Yep.
him?
Of
Okay,
course.
so Alex Harmozy, what he does is he runs a company called acquisition.com, and what he wants people to come to his company with a company that's making millions of dollars, so that he can buy it and then grow that company and really blow it up.
Mhm.
So everything that he writes in his training is just telling companies how to grow so that they can get to the point where they're finally his potential client.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it really is about like, what is it that you're trying to do, and
Mhm.
then what is it that you're trying to do, and then does it how can you prepare that reader to eventually become your client? If you're a consultant, like a coaching consultant, then you might want to write a book telling coaches how to set up their business so that they could get to the point where they have a business, their own coaching business that is large enough to handle you, because you've already shown that you can consult them to the point to get to that level where they have enough revenue so they could hire you as a coach consulting person.
Right.
So the so it creates the most authority if you write a book that helps that reader become your client. It does two
Yeah.
things: it creates authority, and then it also helps grow your business.
Yeah, yeah, because it shows them that you are the expert in that field, and you're absolutely right. You can give everybody the farm. That doesn't mean they're gonna go farming. The truth
Mm-mm.
is that people don't always do everything that they see or hear. That's why I mean, in my space, I'm a coach, right? So I see a lot of people get stuck, even though there's tons and tons of information out there. But that's the problem. There's tons and tons of information out there. So you get stuck. You don't know where to go next. And I found that for when I was using your tool, like I love the one you were talking about. I think it was the long form, the AI coach, right? It
Well, that's
writes
the
with
writing
you.
coach. Yeah, the
Yeah,
long
I
form
love
writer
that.
and the writing coach are different things. But you're talking about the writing coach. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, can you break the pieces down for me if you don't mind? Like, talk to me about the long form and the AI coach and the ebook creator. Do you mind breaking that a little bit?
great. So yeah, so the long form writer and the writing coach are what we call the professional tools on the site. And what I mean by professional tools is they're meant like, if you are a writer and you're trying to write a serious book, these are the tools that you can start with.
Mhm.
And then the other tools are more aimed at are more aimed at creating content quickly. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
so the long form writer is a tool where you can take previous material of any kind. You could take like a speech that you did, a 2 hour keynote speech that you did, and you can put it in the long form writer, and it'll go through that material, that text, and then reformat that information into a first draft of a book. So it's
That's
not
awesome.
like writing necessarily for you, but it's doing all the busy work of
Mhm.
going through all the information and taking it and reformatting it into a first draft of a book. And
That's
then
awesome.
so you could take old podcasts, like whatever you wanted to. I've even used it for journalistic work, where take I can take different journalistic sources and notes from them, and then and then you and put those all in a document, and then use that to create a greater piece about whatever subject I'm trying to cover. Of course, you have to cite your sources, but
Right.
there's but that's also another thing that it can do. Furthermore, then if you're talking about the writing coach, which is a separate thing, now what the writing coach is it takes the place of a ghostwriter. So let's say you're rich, okay? If you're rich, it would be perfectly acceptable for you to hire a ghostwriter who comes in and interviews you, and then asks you questions, and then takes that information away, comes back to you at the first draft that then you look at and you edit and make changes on. So so what the writing coach does is it replaces the ghostwriter, and instead it interviews you like a ghostwriter would, and you get to answer the questions, and then it gives you a first draft which you can then work on. It's interesting. Like, a lot of people think about AI as like cheating, but if you if it is but it's not cheating. A it is a system which brings equality to the table. I mean, because if you were very well off, it would be perfectly acceptable for you to hire a ghostwriter
Right.
who interviews you and then gives you a first draft. But
Mhm.
people think that if you use AI to do the exact same thing, it's somehow cheating. It's not. It's
Right.
it's a leveling the playing field. Really, is what it's doing.
Mhm. Mhm. I really love that, and I know that, I've also used, your ebook creator too, because, there's times where I just have a couple lesson plans that I have already put together, but they're, like, not formatted well, so I've put them in there, and it's helped me create my ebook, and that's been really, really helpful for me as a coach to have, like, these tools that I can give people that, need to know, like, building their avatar or whatever their thing is, right? Whatever the ebook is for. And so I wanted to like touch on that a little bit because I know that Magic Bookifier is powered by like cutting edge AI. So what makes it stand out from the other writing tools? Because some of the other writing tools sometimes just make you not sound right. It makes you sound like a AI. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make you sound like you. So I'm just wondering, how does it maintain your unique voice? Does it do that? I'm very curious about that.
Well, it tries to, and we are in beta right now. So as we move forward, we're going to be able to tune the writing style even more.
Mm,
But
mhm,
for instance, like each tool works in a slightly different way. That's why they're different tools. For the ebook creator, for instance, the ebook creator is a tool which it costs less credits, because what it does is you kind of you can guide the ebook creator specifically to write any type of thing that you want, but it is best on it is best on applying general knowledge,
mhm,
whereas the the long form writer is better at extremely detailed information. So if you
mhm,
wanted to write something that had very, very specific and very, very detailed information, the long form writer is the way to go. However, if you want to write something that is an amalgam of general knowledge, then the ebook writer. Let me for an example is like the ebook writer is great if I wanted to write like a book that was 20 amazing activities for kids to do during the winter, and I had ideas for what those activities were. That's perfect for the ebook writer, because although the idea behind it can be unique, the information therein could be made with general knowledge, because I could tell the ebook writer, okay, I want you to write instructions for how a paper airplane is made, for instance,
mhm,
and
mhm,
so that's general knowledge. But if I was say if I said if I wanted to write instructions on how a specific type of paper airplane is made that I made specific, and it has its own pattern and its own way of working things out, and it has a very specific step by step thing that it has to go through because it's a unique craft, then that's the type of thing that you might want to put in the long form writer,
ah,
because it's not like if it's something that's made up completely brand new and there's a very specific details to it, you might want to put that in the long form writer.
yeah,
Um,
that's so good, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and then so the ebook auto writer is something like that too. For instance, the ebook auto writer is where you can just put in a sentence and then it'll make an entire first draft of an ebook for you. And that's something that can be, that's something where you could say, I want, I want to, you could put in a title like uh you know, crafts for crafts crafts for kids to do that are Nebraska themed. So you could make a very specific ask, and then the system will go through and write that very specific thing for you. People use that specifically a lot for lead magnets, because
Mhm,
you can
mhm.
think of something that might be irresistible to a particular client. Like, say, if you have somebody living in New York who is trying to find a good workout, then you could write an ebook that says, workouts for busy moms living in the Upper East Side of New York. And that's something that would be irresistible to a busy mom living in the Upper East
Yeah,
Side of New York. And this could be written in a matter of minutes by just
that's so cool.
writing a sentence to start.
I love that, right? And I've played around with all of those, so I definitely know they work as I've been, looking at them. You know what else I like? Your rewriting tool. The fact that you
Yeah.
can rewrite, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. Tell me a little bit about the rewriting tool. I love that piece.
Yeah, so there is so when you're viewing your book, every chapter can be rewritten. And the rewriting tool is just a tool where you can just very in plain English say to it, I, you know, I want this chapter rewritten and add in the fact that I want this chapter rewritten and add in the fact that I went on a trip to the zoo and I got to ride the dolphin, and that's how I learned how to be empathetic with animals. And so
Mhm.
you can be very specific about how you want it to rewrite. You can also tell to rewrite in a specific style. Like, you could say, I want this rewritten at like an eighth grade reading level rather than a fifth grade reading level. Or you can say, can you write this in rhymes? Or you could say, can you format this like a recipe book?
I
You
love
can
that.
tell it exactly how you want it to be completed. So it's the system is not done. Like, it'll do a first draft, but then you can make adjustments easily afterwards.
Oh, you give me so many ideas, Victor. Oh my God. I'm like, I got to go on the tool. I have some stuff in my head now.
Oh yeah,
Thank you for that.
I've been making tutorial videos for all this stuff, and I haven't made the tutorial video for the rewriter and how powerful it is. In
Yeah.
fact, honestly, one of the most powerful things there is the chapter creator. The chapter
Mhm.
creator is like really simple, but what you can do with the chapter creator is you can just give it a gist of what you want the chapter to be, just like write up a summary of what you want the chapter to be about,
Mhm.
or just put in data and then say, use this data to make a chapter like this, and then it will rewrite that and turn it into a chapter, and you could write a whole book just chapter by chapter like that.
Oh, I haven't used that tool yet. I'm gonna have to because I've used a lot of the tools. I like the ghostwriting, the one that it asked me questions. I couldn't believe how many questions. It was really interviewing me. It was really asking me questions and making me really think about how to answer that question. So that was really neat for me. That was an experience I never had it with a writing tool before. And so I loved that, right? And so I wanted to ask you about future. What's going on in the future? Give me that vision, right? What excites you the most about what the future of Magic Bookifier? Like, what are some of the upcoming features? What are you thinking of building and putting in there? I really wanna dig into that.
Well, one of the bigger things is happening next is the fiction writer, which is coming up next,
Oh,
because
nice.
and the fiction writer is going to work similar to the writing coach in that imagine just like the same way that sometimes you might I don't know if you have kids
Yep.
or no kids.
They're adults, but yeah.
uh uh if you've ever, if you think about the idea of like the writing coach, if the writing coach were trying to pull out from you your fiction story, you'd be like, okay, then what happened next to the prince, and et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. And it can tell a story in that way where you can come up with the basic idea for your fiction story, and then it can help you write it from beginning to end, chapter by chapter. And that's where we're
Love
going in
it.
the future, which is I want to create a system that actually writes good fiction, because there's a lot of AI tools that are aimed at fiction writing that are not, I don't think, writing the greatest material right now. And I'm trying to make a tool that writes actually good material with the
Mhm,
user.
mhm.
And so that's one of
No,
my favorite things to do.
yeah, and you're absolutely right because I've seen I know almost instinctively when I pick something up that if it was written by AI or if it was
Mhm.
written by the person, right? And
Mhm.
so that's what I liked about that tool because it was asking me really deep questions like, okay, what about this? Because I wrote a book about shame, right? Shame and business and unforgiveness and all that. And it was literally asking me these deep questions. And I'm like, whoa, okay, we're getting into this. So that was like a really cool way for you to think outside of the box and think outside of this linear thinking sometimes when we get into it when we're writing, right? Because then if you don't have, and this is why very wealthy people, to your point, hire ghostwriters because A, you're too busy, and B, a ghostwriter will pull out of you what you might have forgotten or
Yep.
just left to the side and you didn't think was important. And then when the book is out, you're like, damn, I forgot to mention this and I forgot to say that. So I love that, Victor. I love that so much. So I'm really excited about Magic Bookifier. I am a lifetime person, so I'm here for life. I'm just gonna ride or die, I guess, with you, Victor. It's just gonna be me and you. I love it. So I really wanted to thank you for that. And I also wanted to know like how people can follow you and get into all of your community and all that because you are like gracious enough to set up an exclusive lifetime deal for our Straight Talk listeners. And I know for a fact that a lot of our listeners are in the process of wanting to write a book, don't know how to write a book, starting, but like all that kind of stuff that they're going through. And so this exclusive lifetime deal that you set up for us is amazing. So you set up like straight talk dot bookifier.com for
Dot
everybody
AI.
to get, yeah, dot AI, sorry, dot AI
That's okay.
to get all of these exclusive deals. I'm going to make sure I link that below. But you have other like cool things happening. Like you do stuff with creative people and all this type of stuff. So tell us about that and how people can get in contact with you and all that great stuff. I want to know more.
Well, I want to tell you about one thing, and then I want to talk about that. And that
Hmm.
is that, so there's another part to Magic Bookifier is like once I created this technology, I found out that it was actually good for educational work as
Mm,
well. Like, and so I'm actually developing the technology to help with education, and I want a version of the writing coach called Bright Write, which is aimed at educators. And eventually I wanted to be in every school and every library for everybody. And
so
so
cool.
I just want everybody to know that I want everyone to know that if they do end up using Magic Book of Fire, it does also help fund our work for literacy, to make the
That's
whole world a little
beautiful.
more
Oh,
literate,
I love that. Oh, I
which would be
didn't know
awesome.
that. That makes me feel even better. Okay. I love it. Go ahead.
And then and then so so I do have a community called Arts Academy. If you go to altartsacademy.com, you can find the community. It's also a podcast. And whether or not you're part of the community, you can always ask questions. And then we spend episodes of the podcast just telling people how things are done. So like we've had people before just ask like, oh, how can I produce my own stand-up comedy special? Or how can I find a sponsor for my event, or how can I do, or um how can I create a partnership with a large corporation, like those type of things, where the answer is how do artists get paid. Like I
Mhm.
definitely will share all the information as much as I can. When I started out, were always asking me how to do things, how to do this and how to do that, and eventually that became a podcast because then instead of like having to sit down with every single person, sometimes I could be like, oh, look at this episode because I've already recorded it, here's all your answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now it's turned into a community where people can just ask any questions they want to. And once a week I do a free webinar. It's free to everybody, where I like answer people's questions every week.
Wow, that's really a fantastic way for you to like pour into others, but also to like build a community. And so give us that name again. Give us that.
Called the Arts Academy podcast, and you can go to altartsacademy.com to go to the community, or artsacademypodcasts.com for the
Mhm.
podcast.
That's amazing. So, guys, I'm going to make sure that you have that, but I also want you to grab that exclusive deal because it's for you straight talk listeners. So, you might as well, go ahead, check it out. I'm telling you, it has saved me so much time. And I was able to create an ebook. I was able to create all of this stuff. And I even have long form books in there that I'm now re-reviewing and reading through so I can edit. And I wouldn't have been able to do that in that little bit of time. So, go to straighttalk.bookifier.ai, and I'm going to make sure to link that below because he's so gracious to give you this exclusive lifetime deal, and I want to make sure you guys take advantage of that. So, Victor, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me and talking about all of this amazing stuff you're coming out with. I cannot wait to see what you're doing in the world, and I really appreciate your time, your wisdom, your knowledge, your tool, which I use all the time. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, and then one of the things I just want to say is that
Yeah.
everybody out there, I think that the one of the things that's great about the lifetime deal is that you don't have to get another subscription. You can pay once and just
Yep.
use it forever. I myself am tired of subscriptions,
Me too.
and so it's actually a great. I think it's a good opportunity, and I do it all the time. Anytime another app is offering like a lifetime deal, I usually will like definitely consider it and pick it up because it's so useful to just have things forever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's why I'm in love with the tool because of all the stuff that it does. And I do have a lifetime deal myself. And I don't know, it's become it's funny to say this, but it's true. It's become almost like this comfort blanket for me. Like when I have this idea and I know I want to put it in a book and I don't know exactly how to do it. Like if you go to my library, you're going to see quite a few books because I'm always coming up with an idea for a book and something I want to do. And I do my first drafts on MagicBookifier. That's where I do them. So thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful we met, and I'm grateful for your tool. Thank you for that brain of yours. I appreciate
No problem. Thanks for having me.
it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me and Victor. I'm going to link the information below. I'm going to make sure that I give you that link. You have got to check this out. I'm not kidding. And in fact, I asked Victor if it's okay if I do some sort of tutorial at some point. So I'm going to be doing that for you because I absolutely love it and I use it all the time. I'm not kidding. And so I'll show you my library when I do the tutorial because I want to show you that I'm not lying. And Victor's probably like, hey, you're taking up a lot of space on my on my magic book of fire because I have so much going on. But thank you guys for being here and hanging out with us. I really love and appreciate you. Thank you for sharing, subscribing. And if you know someone who needs something like this kind of tool, definitely send them this episode so that they can get to know not just the actual tool, but the creator behind the tool. Thank you guys for being here. This is Neena Perez, straight talk, no sugar added. Until next time.